everybody. Jason here at Northern Path Family Farm, and today, first of all, let me say we're still in the throes of winter. We're coming out of it. Today's one of the, probably the first warm day of the year. It is March 9th, 2015. We're in the wood shop, as we have been most of this winter, trying to take care of some projects, getting ready for spring. So what we're doing today is we've got an order from one of my best customers, if not the best customer. She's in the inside, if you know what I mean. So what we're doing today is we're going to build a primitive china cabinet. So we are at a loss for space right now in the kitchen with some of the dishes and that, and so we're going to make another storage unit that will be both decorative and functional, and we're going to build it in the style of I would say, sort of shaker, primitive, rustic, if you will. So what we're doing is we've got our materials. I made some initial cuts. These will act as the side pieces. We've given it some detail here, and we're going to sand everything smooth, start assembling some of the components. So this will just be a quick video showing how everything comes together with the final product at the end. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Okay, so moving along, we've got our main carcass for the lower portion of this china cabinet, for the most part, assembled. What we're doing now is we're creating a tabletop. We've got two pieces of poplar here, and we're going to join these two pieces together to make a wide tabletop. And the way that we're going to fasten these together is to use biscuits. Most people who do woodworking are familiar with biscuits. Biscuit joinery is a pretty user-friendly technique whereby you use this biscuit cutter, and it cuts a half moon, sort of half radius slot in the side of the wood, and then you insert in one end of the wood here, and then your adjoining piece here, you'd slide the other half in. So they're joined by greater surface area, more glue surface area. Makes a pretty strong joint outside of doing mortise and tenon or dowel type joinery. So we're going to use biscuit joinery for the tabletop. That will give it a nice robust bond between the two halves. And you'll see us assemble that in just a few minutes. Alright, so we're making some pretty good progress here. So far what we've pieced together is the bottom carcass of the china cabinet. So we used plywood materials along with some hardwood. And what we're going to do with this is now assemble the tabletop. For the tabletop, what we did is we laminated two pieces of 12-inch poplar together to give us the width that we need for this bottom foundation piece for the china cabinet. So what we'll do is we'll give this a final trim custom to these dimensions here. Then we'll finish it, take away all the glue and all the residual kind of pitting and that we'll take out with the sanding. You can hear Mr. Rooster back there. They're happy because it's a warm day today. Anyway, we'll give this also a nice routed profile along the edge, and then we'll assemble this tabletop as such. And then coupled with this, we have, to finish it off, we put together a face frame that we also laminated, put together using the biscuit joinery that we talked about earlier. This will assemble to the front of the carcass as such. We'll get everything shored up and fastened down, and then we'll give it a final sanding and then apply the paint. We also have to fabricate the doors. That will be the last step in this particular component of the project. Well, good morning, everyone. Here we are, day number 3 on the primitive Hutch fabrication here. We've got the bottom portion for the most part finished. We're going to add a couple more details, but just quickly wanted to run through what we did on the finish here. So we applied a base layer of black milk paint, allowed that to dry, and on top of that we then applied a red milk paint. Then we used a technique, a rub-out technique using steel wool. We used a 0-aught steel wool, 4-aught being the finest, 0-aught being sort of the rougher of the grades of steel wool. And then just by hand we rubbed out the top layer of the red milk paint to expose the bottom layer of the black. And what that does, it gives it sort of that faux aged appearance and makes it look like it's been, you know, a remnant furniture piece here at the Northern Path Family Farm when this place was established back in 1856 by the late Simon P. Coon. Anyway, we're going to continue. Now that we've got the bottom portion done, for the most part we got a couple more details to add. We're now going to move into the top portion, and we'll keep you updated on videos here. Okay, now what we have here, we cut out these 2 clasps from sycamore, some lumber that we had laying around, some sycamore, hardwood, good wood to work with. It takes this milk paint really well. So what this will do, you'll see in just a couple video segments ahead of this where these will be installed. But real quick and easy, put them through the bandsaw as you saw there, just gave them some, we formed them a little bit, took off the sharp edges using some hand tools, real simple. Giving it a coat of milk paint, we'll rub this out too just to expose the underlying wood color. So that, again, it gives it that primitive sort of age look. Nice thing about milk paint, it's water soluble and it flashes off very quickly. It dries so quick that within an hour you can go back and put a second coat on or do the technique of rubbing the color out, whatever you want to do. So the difference here, you can see we milk painted this one straight black. Doesn't look bad, but the technique that we use here is we take that steel wool, for example, and we will rub out the edges so that it shows the bare wood underneath, especially along the edges here. And what that does is it gives it, again, that aged appearance. You're sort of speeding up the succession of multiple uses to get that wear, that wear look, the aged appearance. Okay, so what we're going to do now, this is something you've probably never seen before. This little wonder component here, what we call, this is deer tallow. It's rendered deer tallow. So this is a byproduct from our hunting. So when we process deer, we'll extract all the fat from the deer, all the tallow, and then what we'll do is we'll boil that down, we'll strain it, and then we'll preserve it. It's an excellent wood preservative. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this felt cloth here, going to rub a little bit of this deer tallow on the cloth, and we're just going to put a final protective sort of coating finish on this clasp handle here. So this is great. This is something that we produce on the farm here, the deer tallow. And then it has a direct application of functional use right in our woodworking projects here. So you can see the difference, see the sheen here as opposed to the bare finish there. In fact, pioneers would use deer tallow for a multitude of different projects for wood preservatives. All of my wood tools like these mallets and such, are all finished, or at least given a once-a-year protective coating of deer tallow. And there you have it. So now we're going to show you how to install this thing and what the final product's going to look like with our homemade clasps. Thought I'd take a moment to show you what we're about to do to remedy a hole in a piece of lumber that we were using for the crown molding on top of this cabinet. First of all, much of the wood that we're using for this project is actually wood that we're just getting out of the barn. There's a lot of wood left over from a lot of years worth of projects from prior owners, myself included. I've got some scrap wood out in the barn. That's where we store all the scrap wood. So we utilize as much as we can without having to buy new lumber at the lumber yard. What that means, though, is sometimes there's some imperfections that you have to work around. What we've been doing here is we've been molding some profiles on this trim here so that we'll have a nice crown molding piece on top of the cabinet. But what I've run up against here is a hole in the wood, and obviously I don't want that to be shown. So what we have is some glue. We're going to show you an old method for creating a wood filler prior to when modern wood fillers were invented and made available in your hardware stores and your woodworking stores. So what did guys in the colonial times, even as far back as the Roman era, what did they use for woodworking projects to fill holes? Well, first of all, let's talk about the glue. They certainly didn't have tight bond glue in the 1700s. Most, if not all, glues at that time were derived from animals, animal glues. We call them hide glues today, and they're derived from boiling down or making soluble the a lot of animal parts, hooves, intestines, bones, tissues, and what would happen is it forms a collagen. It's the collagen that reacts on a molecular level with and sticks to the surfaces of wood and so on. So just like gelatin, it's gelatin or it's collagen that forms the primary component within hide glue. Well, we got modern glue, so we're not worried about that. But what about wood filler? So one thing that I like to use quite a bit is we're making a lot of wood chips and sawdust in the workshop, and we'll go ahead and we'll utilize those. Got myself a little dish right here. I'll put a little bit of glue in here. So I got my glue, and I've got some wood shavings that we took off the planer that we used a moment ago, and I'm just going to dump them in there, and I'm going to stir everything together and make a homemade wood filler. And then we're going to insert it in that hole, but on the back side of this hole, what I want to do is create a sort of a stop so it just doesn't fall out the other side. Put some masking tape on the back side, like so. There's the hole. And now we're just going to pack in this homemade wood filler right inside the hole here. Certainly when it dries, it's not going to look perfect. That's why we have sandpaper, and we'll use that to finish it off. I just want to get most of the, all of the hole filled in, because when everything's sanded from there, obviously we're gonna finish this up with a nice coat of paint, match it up to the entire cabinet here, and then we'll be good to go. So here we are the very next morning. We allowed that homemade wood filler to cure and to dry, and what we've already done is sanded it smooth to match the profile of this crown molding. Came out really nice. The wood filler, when it dries, it's actually denser than the wood. nice and solid in there. So it takes to sanding really well. So we were able to just work it with successive lighter grits of sandpaper up to about 220, and then matching the profile. So still looks kind of rough. That's because we haven't painted it yet, but wanted to point out the differences in the wood color here. We have a redwood here, and then we have some normal pine, some white pine right here. Again, just barn wood that we got out of the barn, scrap wood I should say, that we're repurposing for this project to turn it into something really nice. Okay folks, so here we are with the final product. Very happy to say that this thing is finally done. Last night we assembled the top portion to the bottom carcass. The bottom portion was finished about 5 days ago, and then we fabricated the top portion and assembled everything last night. And came together very nicely. That top portion though, bringing that in the house was extremely heavy. I had to get Aiden to help me on that one there, but came out great. Very happy with the result. Let's take a grand tour. Open up the shelves here. Cabinet doors. These were the clasps that we made out of the sycamore. And per the request of the missus, she wanted more storage for some of the dishware and the china that's been sitting in boxes actually since we moved in the farm here. So she's going to be happy that she's got this functional, more storage area to put more stuff into. Looks like on the bottom portion, I think she's already got stuff in here. That's right. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. It came together very nicely. We're proud of the project, and it's a nice addition. Real quick here, that crown molding turned out just perfect, and that was all scrap pieces out of the barn that we found. And you'll recall that one of the corners had a hole in it that we patched up, and that's obviously invisible now. Got a neat idea on the stoppers for the door. I put them at a 45-degree angle here just to give it some symmetry, and then so what that does is that stops the door from going any further in. And close everything up here. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for checking us out. We'll hope to see you on the farm soon. Spring is coming. We've got chickens on order, eggs every day. Give us a call if you need any, and we'll see you soon. Take care.